Coast to coast, America is watching protests and civil disobedience unfold night after night following two high-profile police-related deaths of unarmed black men where grand juries turned up no indictments in either case. First, it was the Michael Brown case in Ferguson, Missouri. That sparked weeks of violent protests in that little town and literally put it on the map of America's collective conscience. Soon after, the non-indictment and chokehold death of Eric Garner in Staten Island, New York, that picked up the already existing outrage and extended the types of protests we're now seeing across the nation. Just last night, over in New York City saw a huge crowd of protesters gather outside of the Barclays Center where the Brooklyn Nets met with the Cleveland Cavaliers. As LeBron James led his team to defeat the home team, his appearance on the court was overshadowed by his pre- and post-game photo ops. Now, before the game, he sported this "I Can't Breathe" t-shirt in solidarity of the Eric Garner movement. Now, after the game, while King James was meeting the British Royals, protesters outside of the Barclays Center staged a huge die-in in which saw the convergence of protesters for both Garner and Brown. Now, demonstrators got a little rowdy at times, shouting at police who were enforced to prevent any further violence. They say they chose that venue because they wanted the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge to acknowledge the issue of police violence in America. Now, LeBron wasn't the only celebrity using his fame to highlight this cause. Music mogul Russell Simmons has been an ardent supporter of the protesters, which he's actually calling a movement. Now, Simmons tweeted, "They think we're going away, but we just got started." His sentiments are joined by filmmaker and activist Michael Moore, who tweeted, "Because we've come so far, R.I.P. Eric Garner. Your crime was that you were selling untaxed cigarettes instead of derivatives and junk mortgages." Now, over in Washington, D.C., on the streets of the nation's capital, that was shut down yet again during rush hour last night. Protesters, they took to the streets to stage die-ins all over the city. From intersection over to intersection, protesters marched and chanted, demanding a change in the system, which they feel unjustly targets minorities. Now, the district marches were peaceful, yet very impactful. Now, way over on the other side of the country, in California, not so peaceful protests erupted in Oakland and Berkeley. There, protesters shut down multiple highways and began rioting on the streets. In Berkeley, a pregnant woman en route to the hospital ended up giving birth on the 80 highway, which connects Berkeley to Oakland. Now, the Oakland protesters began rioting on the streets, smashing shop windows, police cars, and stopping traffic in both directions on Highway 80 as well. Now, between those two cities, at least 159 arrests were made last night. The charges ranging from resisting arrest to vandalism. Luckily, though, no reports of injuries. Now, by any and all accounts, protesters and observers alike say that this is a rising, that this is a national movement and awakening. Now, I talked to protest organizers who say this is a social change that is bigger than Mike Brown or Eric Garner themselves, but rather they were just the catalyst. In Washington, Manila Chan, RT.